I've been so excited to talk with you this morning. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Maria. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I want to dive right in. I know you've been busy, only with your family, but last year you had a fantastic year. You flipped, what, 24, 25 properties?
Well, it was 18, but I had six going into 2025 that I'm working on. So I guess you could add it up to 24 total, but it's 18 closings.
18 closings.
20 closings because I had a couple that I refied or either kept as a rentals.
So, real estate industry, people think, oh, let's just start buying houses and collect passive income.
Mm-hmm.
Not really that passive, is it?
No, rentals are some of the worst investments you can make, honestly.
For somebody like myself who's been in the industry and transacted over 3,500 plus transactions, I cannot stand the rental business. I want to sell all of them and start all over.
So I have about 20 doors right now. It's a small portfolio. It's not like one of these people that's got like several hundred, but I started buying them just a few years ago. So I ramped up, I guess, kind of quickly. And none of them actually make any money. There's always something wrong. There's always some heater that's got to get fixed or roof that's leaking or something is got. Yes, maybe I make more. I don't. In other words, I don't depend on any of the rental income. I'm more in it to weather the storm, so to speak. So I don't know if you ever saw the. There was a clip with Jeff Bezos. He was on, I think, Conan O'Brien many years ago. I think it may have even been in the '90s. And Conan O'Brien was making fun of him for losing money on Amazon every single year. Like they've never made money. But then we all know Amazon is one of the biggest, most profitable companies now. But he kept reinvesting into the business and reinvesting into the business. And that's kind of what I'm doing. And I look at it as these rentals are long term, and long term, they will most likely be worth more. Long term, I will pay down the principal on the mortgages that I owe in them. And as long as I can weather the storm, even just to break even, or whether I lose a little bit or make a little bit, as long as it's not some type of catastrophic event where that bankrupts them, then I don't really care because my goal with these rental properties, obviously I want to make money. There's been rental properties where the best ones are the ones that I buy undervalued and I buy it at a very steep discount. Let's say I'll buy something at $70,000 and I'll put in 30,000, maybe $40,000 to make it not just livable, but a pretty good, decent house at that point. And then if I can refi it and if I can pull out money on top of that refi, I can make $30,000 on just the refi, 30 or $35,000 on a refi. That's not every single one. Some of them I just pull out what I owe on them. But my goal is to get them stabilized so that they're in a good enough condition that I minimize any type of maintenance calls that I have. And I also have the best type of tenant in there to minimize any type of issues, whether that be maintenance calls, turnovers, evictions, things like that. So that long term, it just sits there. And it's kind of like I look at each one as kind of like a 401k or um, what's the thing that police officers have? A pension plan, right?
Pension.
It's kind of like a pension, right? So you got to do a little bit of work. I guess pensions, you don't really have to do anything. But you have to contribute to it every single month. And so I contribute to it in the form of property management. And long term, there will be something out of that. So that's kind of how I
That's,
look at those rental properties.
that's a very positive way to look at that
Yeah.
because most of them are a big headache and there's always something wrong. I agree. Or who's not paying rent this month, or yeah, it's a lot of stuff. But over time, as we know, real estate increases in value. You could
Yes.
just look over the last 20 years, 10 years, 5 years. And if you follow the cadence of it, you can see how much the increase has been. And people even just holding properties. I know people that they have properties that are vacant. They just sit vacant.
Hmm.
I mean, that's not a lot, but they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to sell it. They're not ready to do that. They don't have a mortgage. And so they're like,
Yeah,
we'll
it's
just
just
leave it
sitting there and you're
vacant.
paying the taxes on it, and it depending on what the property is, you can if the appreciation exceeds the depreciation on the property, like as long as the place doesn't fall apart to the point where it's going to be a tear down,
Yeah, of
you
course.
know, yeah, you could do that. It's like holding onto a stock, I guess. It's not making you money at the moment, but it could make you money when you sell it. I
Well,
like
it's
it.
not
I like it so that it makes me money, or at least we'll break even, and I'll get also tax benefits to that because I'll get
right. Well,
tax write off.
you have the write-offs, you have the depreciation. So, and it's
When I flip houses, I need to get other tax write offs because I have the income from the house that I flip.
exactly. So how did actually, and that's the question, how did you get into the industry?
I got into it about 2007. I read the Rich Dad Poor Dad books in when I was in my 20s, my early 20s, and I had wanted to get into real estate, and I didn't really have any money, and I shared these books with my friend. He read them too, and he had a job, and I had a job too, but he had a job, and he had like a line of he had a relationship with a bank, so we started buying properties together, and it that was kind of like my first go around in real estate from 2007 to 2010. So we bought a handful of rental properties. We didn't know what we were doing. We mismanaged everything. We didn't flip anything. We didn't know how to wholesale. We just figured we would just blindly go into this buying rental properties, and we would get rich off the cash flow. And 3 years later, um, we nearly went bankrupt and had to liquidate everything, and it kind of knocked me out of. And we parted ways. We're still good friends, but we had to stop doing that. And then it knocked me out of the real estate business for another 6 years. I was like uh, from 2010 to 2016. I was kind of just like pretty shaken up from it because I was almost $1 million in debt in 2010, and I had to figure out how to pay everybody back, and I did over time, and either through some type of settlement or any private lender I paid back in full. But 2016 came around, and I had been working at this company doing sales. I'd been in sales for a long time, and I was getting pretty good at it. And this other guy who he started doing wholesaling, and he was working with the same company I was. We were both in sales, and then all of a sudden he came in one day and he said he was quitting. He was like sitting outside the chief sales officer's office waiting to go talk to him. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He goes, I'm resigning today." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Well, I've been making 20 grand a month basically doing some real estate stuff." I'm like, "Really?" And my ears perked up. And then I was like, "Well, let's keep in contact." So we had kept in contact, and for probably another year, I kept bugging him about it. I was like, "Hey, how do I get into this?" And then because I really wanted to get into it. He was basically wholesaling, but he was wholesaling with a guy that I had known previously back in my 2010 days, who had gone through a similar situation where I don't know exactly what happened to him. I know that but we all went through tough times back in 2010 because of that whole market collapse back in 2008, and it just lasted for years. And for most of us who didn't know what we were doing, it was only a matter of time until all the cards came falling down. And so I knew the guy that he knew, and we all kind of teamed up together, and we started doing wholesaling, and we did wholesaling for the next couple of years, and then we all outgrew each other and went our own ways, and we're all successful now. But I had done wholesaling from 2016 to about 2020. Ooh, did you lose me for a second there? I'm back. Around 2020, I had done my first. I was like, let me try and do a flip, and so I figured out how to get the money. Used a private hard money lender, so to speak, and it was basically somebody who brokers deals and knows how to do that well, and doesn't do it as a public, like a business. He doesn't do business with just anybody. But he lent me the money, and I flipped the house and I made 35 grand. It was like 30 or $35,000. And I'm thinking my average wholesale deal, some of these things are only 5 or 10 grand. And I got to scrap around just to get one or two of them a month. Let me start flipping. I think I might start flipping more. And so I kept doing wholesaling and wholesaling. And then I was like, let me try, I'm going to start doing flipping because now I have some relationships with some lenders who, or at least I forget, I had a relationship with one or two lenders who would lend me the money. And, it was a pretty easy process. And I was like, well, if I can't flip this house, then I'm just going to keep it as a rental. So I have several exit strategies, and I know that if I can rent the house, I can certainly pay off. Even if I can't refi out of this mortgage for whatever reason, I know that the rent will cover the hard money lender's mortgage, which thankfully that's never happened. But I knew like a worst case scenario that I was good at buying undervalued assets and and to turning them into profits.
And that was what? That's like 5 years, about 5 years you
So
started?
20 so 2020 is when I started flip. I flipped my it was like my first real flip. Um, and then 2021 I did like a couple, and then 2022 and 2023 is where I really started taking off. I forget how many I did in 22. No, I did about 9 in 2022, and then no, 20, I forget. What year is it? I think 2023 I did 9, and last year I did 18. So I doubled that, which really isn't that much. Like there are guys out there, I guess, that do 100 deals a year. So, but not many, no. But I mean, if you do like one deal a month, I think
Not
most people
many.
do that.
It's hard to do 100. It's hard in the sense of, well, there's a lots of pieces of it, right? So you have to acquire the asset, and then you have to do the build, and then you got a disposition of the asset. So a lot of different, that's the hundreds because 100's really 200, probably,
Yes.
right? So anyway, it requires processes and systems and people.
Hmm.
And people. What do you think the biggest challenges that you faced in last year in flipping?
Biggest challenge I faced, delays in settlement, probably because, it sounds like it might sound like I have like a ton of deals going on, but if I have one deal going on, well, not one deal, but let's say I'm expecting a deal to close by a certain date and that gets delayed by a month because the lender, or because it's typically the lender, right? Or maybe the buyer backed out or for whatever reason they weren't qualified or something like that. So I would say delays is one of the most frustrating thing on my end. I mean, that's probably anything for real estate, for whether you're a realtor, a wholesaler, landlord, anything like that. If you're expecting a certain amount of money coming in by a certain date and it doesn't happen and it gets delayed by 30 days or even a week or whatever, you're going to be a little upset about that. So that,
Especially if it moves from January to February
yeah, yeah,
out of the month.
yeah,
Because we live in a world of fixed monthly expenses. No
yeah,
matter what, they have to be
yeah,
paid.
yeah. Like I got to pay my private lenders, I got to pay the utilities, I got to pay the taxes on these things. And so luckily that did not happen very often, but when it did, um, the other challenges are, I guess, just managing the construction process, dealing with the buyer's replies to what they want fixed because I renovate. I don't do new construction. I renovate old houses, and sometimes certain things get priority over others. So when they go do an report and this comes back, sometimes they want to renegotiate or they want to get a credit or they want you to fix a million different things, and that's fine. I get it. They want a good house to live in, and that's fine. So you just got to fix it. Another thing that and it hasn't come up too often, but were low appraisals. So this one I always cannot stand how some of these appraisals come back because I've lost tens of thousands of dollars in lower appraisals, and it makes a big difference, right? I had a house that like hit the market the first day, and a buyer overbid 10 grand. It was up for 200 and they offered 210. And then the appraisal came in a week later at 190. And I'm like, well, how is that it's a $20,000 difference? And it's coming out of my pocket. And then we came back to them and, we tried to appeal the appraisal and it just, they wouldn't go for it. So
It's tough. The
yeah.
appraisals definitely, it's something that making sure that they have the comps in advance is part of it. Otherwise, especially if there's not a lot of them up front, depending where's most of the properties located.
Most of the stuff I do is in Delaware County.
How are you, what's your process for the acquisition? Are you working with wholesalers or do you work with brokers?
I work with anybody who brings me a deal.
Anybody
Yeah.
that brings you a deal. So what's the majority of where they're coming from?
Honestly, social media. I post on social media. You know me through social media, right?
That's right.
Yeah. You reach out to me, ask me to be on your podcast. We've never met. I don't think we've ever met in person before. Have
Nope.
we?
We're just friends on Facebook.
Just friends on Facebook. But I'm sure we know people personally. We've never done business.
I'm sure we know a lot of this
You know,
mutual
we know a lot.
people,
Yeah, we know a lot of the same people. But
which is
that,
why how we got connected on Facebook because
yeah,
we were probably in each other's feed.
yeah. I mean, so I have VAs who they do cold calling, they do cold texting, they do follow-ups, but I almost never get any deals from them. And I don't really and it's like too time consuming for me to actually like sift through all of that. So really I just have relationships with wholesalers, with realtors. Once in a while I get something that's on the MLS, almost never though, maybe like one or two things per month will be on the MLS. But if I don't know how many wholesalers are out there just in Philadelphia or just in Delaware County. How many wholesalers do you think are in like, the Philadelphia area? There's probably hundreds of them. And of that, there's probably only a handful, a couple dozen that actually really do any business. So you got to find who those people are. So I know who a handful of those people are. So I look at it like this: is like if I know 10 wholesalers or 12 wholesalers and I get one deal per year from each wholesaler, that's a deal a month. And I guess that's 2 deals a month, right? So that's how I get to my 18 flips, 1.5 flips per
One and a
month.
half.
So if I have deals with these wholesalers, just wholesalers. Now, not everything is coming from wholesalers, but a lot of these things are. Some of it is from marketing that I've done. Some of it's from the MLS. Some of it's from realtors sending me deals. I always post in my stories, and I'll post it sometimes just like on my feed. Hey, I'm looking to buy deals, and I do it frequently enough that people reach out to me. Random people that I've never met before. I'll see. I have to make sure you check all your spam messages because it's not necessarily spam. It could be somebody who's looking, reaching out to you to get a deal. Hey, I'm looking to buy a house for cash as is. I got, this is what I'm looking for. Or just random people reach out all the time for me. And like I said, it doesn't take that many. It's not like I get hundreds of messages. If I get a message a day, 30 messages, 300 messages a year from people reaching out to me, I'm going to get deals out of that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Using it the right way,
Yeah.
using social the right way to connect with people that you don't know. And I met a lot of people on social. Actually, I'll be at like an event and somebody will be like, Maria, we're friends on Facebook. Oh yeah. I'm like, I remember. And then it's funny. It's a interesting world that we live in, that's for sure. We wouldn't, I said, before COVID, we weren't doing like podcasts like this.
Right.
It came from COVID. I mean, of course, there were some people, but there's not many people in the real estate space that are doing it. I think it's a great way to meet people.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I think it's a great way to meet people and to
Yeah.
learn about, what you do. And hopefully somebody listening can learn something. And that's all about, my mantra is having impact, be the solution, being contribution.
I have a friend who he flips houses, but he never posts. And this is a lot of people. They don't post anything. They never post anything on social media. And he said to me, "Hey, things are dried up, and I don't get any deals anymore." And I said, "Well, you never post anything. How are you going to get on anybody's radar if you're not in front of their face?" You know what I mean? So
There's truth. There's truth.
mm,
So in regards to the deals that you are purchasing, what's the average acquisition cost and then construction and then ARV?
I specialize in um, things that are between 100 and or no, sorry, between 200 and 300 ARV. So it's kind of lower end, um, Delaware County. A lot of row houses. I don't mean lower end, but like that lower on the price end.
Yeah, first time buyer
Yeah,
properties.
first time buyer. I don't know what first time buyers are buying, but a
It's
lot of
their
them
price.
are row houses, twins, and they're like 3 bedroom, 3 bed, 1 or 2 bath, something like that. And I'll buy them anywhere between 60 and $150,000, and they're worth anywhere between 200 and mid ones to $300,000. And I'll usually put in between 30 and $50,000 to in rehab. I don't like to do full guts. I don't like to do huge rehabs. The less, the better. I would certainly wholesale something, meaning if I could buy something that's already in a good enough shape at a good enough price, I would just close on it and slap it back on the market and literally not do anything if I could make as much or almost as much or even more in some cases than if I had rehabbed it. Sometimes that makes more sense to do something like that.
There's
So,
always where there's a will, there is a way.
yeah. But I haven't really done that often. I'm just saying I certainly would do that. I know guys that do that. But most of the time, it's a minimum of like 20 to 30 grand in construction costs. Paint, I rehab, I will almost always refinish any hardwood floors. For some reason, I just like the look of hardwood floors, and I think it's a nice look for a lot of these houses. Redo the
So you're
kitchen.
buying stuff in like Upper Darby and those areas. I had several deals last year I could have brought to you.
Send them my way. Anything in Delco.
I sold them and quick
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they're properties you would have bought.
yeah, yeah.
Because we do all of the Philadelphia metro market. So not just Philadelphia County, but certainly Delaware County, Montgomery County. And I would say it's like Philly, it would be Philly, Delaware, Montgomery, then Bucks in that order of where our deals come from.
Okay.
So we do Bucks, but it's less than the other areas. And it's really about proximity. We're located in the city, so which is great because we can be 20 minutes this way or in Delaware County, Montgomery County. Bucks is further, so
Right.
that's kind of like how it works. We don't want to
Yeah,
go further. We go an hour out. We don't want to go further than an hour out.
I like Darby, Upper Darby, Collingdale.
I sold properties in all those areas last year.
Mhm.
Every year we get a lot in the. I think I have something coming up too in Darby, but I'm getting like, this week I did 10 listing appointments and I wasn't in the office on Monday, so
You did
that
10
it
list
works.
appointments? That is amazing.
Yeah, I did 10. I did 2
Oh,
yesterday. I think I did 3 on Friday. I did 4 the day before.
you
Did
list
1 the day
all of
before.
these?
All different things. So I have 4 signed. 1 will be signed next week. 1 he's thinking about if he wants to sell. The other one would I have to meet again with them next week. So and then there'll be some. So I did 400 appointments last year, 400
Wow.
listing appointments. Actually more than that, but I'm using that number because I know that's a number for fact. And now I'm going through. I have about 100 of those 400 tagged as sellers 2025. So 25% of them we're going to sell in 20. That was 2024. We're going to sell in 2025. 25% of them I didn't get for a variety of reasons. Either mainly price, they wouldn't agree with me on the price.
Mhm.
And that's like another thing. Like,
You don't even want to deal. You probably don't want to. They'd probably be the worst client ever.
so some of them didn't even sell because I checked the
That's what I'm saying. They're,
price.
they're, they're a pain in the ass. If you're,
And then the next one, the reason why was fee. They don't want
yeah,
to pay me what I wanted to be paid. And so, this is another thing. I was going to do a whole video, and I think I made today about this because I do videos every day. So my fee is X. And just because you paid this one over here who's been in the business for 1 year, X, you think I should be paid the same amount of money. I disagree. I have 21 years of experience, 3,500 plus transactions transacted. Why would I get paid the same as the other person? So I don't want to be paid that amount, whatever that amount is that I'm not agreeing to. So, I don't get business because of that too. So that's another thing. I got to find a way to make that make more sense to people.
You're working your sales skills.
Well, some people just not happening. Then I look at it and go, well, that's short-sighted too.
Well, you might
For
want to
lots-
say something like, because here's the thing.
Not to them, but
Whether you have 21 years or somebody has 1 year, if I were selling my home and I'm just pretending if I were ignorant and didn't know anything, that really wouldn't matter to me. Like, why is 21 years better than somebody has one? You're selling my one house. I'm not doing something for 21 years. Why do I care?
well, I would beg to differ on that. Why would you go to somebody? Let's say, okay, well, do you want to go to the dentist? You got a big problem with your tooth?
Mhm.
You want to go to the one who just got out of dental school or the one that said 5,000, same tooth problem that you have?
Probably the one who has the experience, but that's
Because the experience isn't just like getting it under contract, or the experience is all the little details that go into actually selling a property, which is an enormous amount of things that people most of the time when I look at listings don't even incorporate. Why wouldn't you use 3D tours on everything, including home warranties? Why isn't everything virtually staged? Why isn't your listing SEO? Why isn't it written for SEO? I could go down a list and I will take that checklist I created and go down and spend 95% of the listings out there, and they don't meet the checklist of things that we incorporate. Selling the payment on the house, not the price of the house. Everybody buys based on a payment.
right.
Nobody buys really based on the price of the house. What fees can come off by using certain mortgage lenders? In an area like a lot of the ones that you're in, there's a $10,000 credit from WisFis, from Prosperity Bank, right? I see all these listings that they don't even include that. There's CRA money from Citizens and Bryn Mawr and all these other banks that have to do CRA. There's that money. That's a significant savings to a buyer that can make a payment go $300, $400, $500 less. So there's a lot of things that go into actually being a listing broker that most people think you just take it and you slap it up on the MLS. If that was the case, everything would sell. It's not how it works. But
Now you
people
sold me.
they don't understand all the nuances. Not only that, all the things that come up, like you had said about an appraisal. Well, there's ways that make sure the appraisal happens the way it's supposed to happen. That means that they get the comps before they do it. Making sure that the conversation is had with them when they call to schedule the appointment. By the way, I'm going to send them over to you if we think it's going to be a problem. Appraisal, especially if the price is higher than it was listed for. All these different little things like delays on a closing, for example. Okay, well, who's the lender? Who the hell are they? Do we know them? If we don't know them, are they vetted? Have we talked to them? Is the buyer really? So we have a mortgage brokerage company. So if I don't think that the person is 100%, we're not sure based on their BFI. Oh, do they bring a BFI? Is the pre-approval solid? We'll ask to run that scenario to make sure they're 100%. Their 100% can be bought by the bank. It's a lot of extra work, and that costs money and time. And what about, here's the other thing. I'm not a one-woman show. I got a staff of people that we need to pay. So most people they're just one agent. One agent means not necessarily the best service, because how can we do all things? I say I'm only good at like 2. How many are you good at? I'm good at like 2 things. There's 7 things in a transaction. Those other things I suck at. You never want me to do paperwork. I'm not a paperwork person.
Do you have a presentation that you do when you go to these listing appointments?
Yeah, I have a whole thing. It gets sent out before. It's everything's in there of what everything that we do. You know,
Similar.
I won't take every listing because I know I can't sell it for what they want, or I
Is it like a
feel
video?
as
Is it like a video?
it is a two things: a publicity book, which
Mhm.
has in there lots of things, especially articles. We've gotten properties in the media, different things we've done in the media with Channel 6, Channel 10, CBS, Fox, all these different Inquirer, WHYY. They're always calling it. They want to know about what's going on in the market. So that, and then there's also a marketing presentation of all the things that we do to get property sold.
Is
And
that a
it's
video?
digital. Now, I did have a video, but I have to redo it because it was from like COVID time. So it needs to be updated. But
You
I
send it
had a series, I had like 50 videos.
you send it to the prospective.
But you know, I don't think everybody that watch
That's
opens
my point
everything.
is that I don't think probably nobody does. Probably probably less than 10% actually. They might look at it or something, but like how many of them actually like go through it and understand
Well,
it?
I know some do because it says looked at 7 times. It said open 7 times,
Okay.
but not everybody does open it.
But when you go to the listing appointment, do you
No,
what?
because so you're asking me when I go, it depends on what it is.
Yeah.
A lot of them, a lot. So let's just say if it's an investor
Mhm.
and it's multifamily or commercial, and they live in Middle County, New Jersey, whatever. It's a phone appointment.
Right.
So most of the appointments start with a phone appointment. That's number one. And then I assess the situation of what the next step is.
Okay.
Yeah, because they can't the most of the they my office will schedule a call with me. I'm usually not sitting at my desk when people call. So I will then assess the situation, but that's the first appointment is on the phone. So some of the appointments are, two-step appointments. Then you
Okay.
go out. It all depends. But I working with people like I had one yesterday, for example. He'll be ready on the 1st of February. So I went through everything with him on the phone yesterday, 35 minutes. And I said, "Are you ready to move forward with us?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "So I'm going to send you the DocuSign." He said, "Yeah." So that went out to him yesterday, and I'll meet him on the 1st at the property. But I've already, and that doesn't mean that the price range within
Mhm.
10,000, that's not solidified. It will be then on the 1st, and we'll pick up keys and meet in person at that point because he's up in like Doylestown and has to finish something on the house, as
Okay.
an example. But every situation's different. Every scenario is different. It depends on the client and what the property is. And if it's tenant occupied, if it's vacant, if it's multifamily, if it's a church, maybe there's a lot of different scenarios. So it's not all the same exact rinse and repeat. It's all fun until it's not. I look at it like I don't have to do anything. I get to do it. So I'm fortunate.
I like that.
I get to do work with people. I get to impact people. I get
I've heard the
to,
same thing when my son wakes up at 5:30 every morning.
it's coming from a place of gratitude. And I think that makes like a world of a difference in your mindset because every day there's some BS that's going on that is aggravating. And you're like, okay, it's just a little thing, not a big deal. All of it is just small stuff. If you think about all the aggravation things, it won't matter a year from now. And
For the
most
most
of the time, the answer is no. So I'm just like, whatever. They'll think like, oh, why are you so nonchalant about it? I go, well, what do you want me to do? Have my panties in a bunch too? Like, and that is through learning lessons learned. There's no sense in me getting upset too. So I just leave it sit there, figure it out. So this year, you want to do basically 2 a month. What has to change for that to happen, or are you already on track for it?
I just got to do a little bit extra, you know, just more marketing, just more acquisitions, really. So I have my first closing is supposed to be this Wednesday, first closing of the year to sell. And I have 4 properties under contract. I just bought my first one yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever it was, Friday. And it's just a matter of doing a little bit extra, just finding the extra deals, raising the money, increasing my continuing relationships with private lenders, maybe getting a couple new private lenders, but just finding more deals. It's just a matter of if I get an MLS deal, which I probably could if I scoured the MLS every day, I could probably get one more deal a month just from the MLS, and I wouldn't even need a wholesaler, right? So it's just a matter of putting out making extra more offers, making more contacts. Contacts equals contracts. The more contacts you have, the more contracts you can get.
No doubt. No doubt.
So,
Do
and here's
you
the thing.
follow
What's that?
Did you ever listen to or read the book, The Power of One More?
By Ed Milet?
Yeah,
I have not, but I listen to Ed Milet. I listen to his podcast quite a bit, so I'm familiar with the title of the book. And
that's so I talk about that too. I said, I looked at last year. I said, okay, I can do more. How do I do more? And I looked at the schedule and I'm like, well, look, we're doing this podcast at 9:30 on a Saturday morning. So I said, I can do more podcasts. I'll do them on the weekends. I can do, like yesterday, I did 2 listing appointments. I'm just going to be open to do more work on Saturdays and Sundays
yeah,
because I want to be able to do more. And if I put that time in, I figured it out. If I over 100, it's going to be 110 days, so it's 100 days, over 110 days because I'm going away for a few. They said if I put this extra hours in those days, it ends up being another month of work. So it's a 13, just in that 100 days, it would be a 13-month year compared to everybody else. So that's how you get the extra. That's how that's how I'm getting the extra. But I followed, excuse me, Ed Milet for some time. And I did read his book a couple times. Actually, I'm going to read it again. I talk about it all the time now in my office about do one more, make one more call, help one more family, do one more set of reps, do one more rounds of squats, whatever it is, whether it's for personal, we talk about personal a lot in our firm. So personal and professional, because we're not just one without the other, and we don't live in a vacuum. So they all intertwine, especially in real estate. If you want it to be, it's entirely up to you for sure.
yeah.
You have to put in the effort 100%. It's all about that. And that's exactly what you're doing. That's why you were able to increase what you were doing from before. And I'm glad that you didn't give up and came back into the real estate world.
Me too.
Always good to have good people. And I do look forward, Evan, to meeting you in person sometime. And I bet you, because of this podcast, you will get some opportunities from us this year.
I hope so. I'm looking forward to it. 400 listing appointments is insane. I don't know anybody who does that much. So send them my way. I'd be more than happy to make offers. I always say, and I mean, you're in the business, so I know you have a fiduciary responsibility to anybody who lists the property, but if they don't want to list it, or if you don't want to list it, and it's a headache, and it's like low end, ratty property, dump, something like that, would need $1 million worth of work. That's right up my alley.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's like also, part of it too. Like, I mean, call and say, hey, I got this property, and go out there and take a look at it and see. I have one right now, but always something like family fighting, estate.
Those are the best.
Yeah.
They're the ones that make the most money.
It's
At least from my
always,
hey,
well,
by the way,
they lose, yeah, they lose money because they're in their own way.
right, right, right. That's what I'm
Like,
saying. They make the most money for an investor.
yes, and it's because of their own stupidity, their
Yeah.
own emotions between, wanting to get over on the other one, sadly.
By the way, I'm speaking next week at Nick Tang's event in King of Prussia. I don't know if you're gonna
Oh,
or
no, I don't know anything about it.
do you know Nick Tang?
I do not.
Oh,
I kn him.
yeah.
He's the guy who wears the sunglasses, right?
He sometimes, yeah, yeah.
Like, the
Yeah, you should know him. You should have him on your podcast. He runs events in the tri-state area. I think he's from North Jersey, but he runs events in and like real estate networking events and speaking events, and several times a year he has like a bigger event where there's literally hundreds of people that come out, and I've spoken to him a bunch of times. There's a bunch of like local speakers that will come and speak at the event. So
when it
he,
where?
next week in King at somewhere in King of Prussia, I have to look it up. But if you just go to his Facebook page, it'll probably be up there.
Oh,
I gotta
cool.
post. It could be like a lot of good, like a lot of people who are in the real estate world go to his events that are around here. So you know how you have like we have like 315 from common on Facebook. They'll
They'll
show up
all
at
be there.
they'll all be there. Yeah. You're like, oh yeah, I know you Facebook.
Oh, cool. I will
Yeah.
definitely check it out and see if we can make it. That sounds awesome. Evan, it's been a pleasure talking with you today. Thank you for being on Be the Solution, and I wish you a fantastic 2025 and beyond. And let's
Thank
do
you.
some deals.
Let's do some deals. Yeah, I appreciate being here. Let's do it.
Yeah.